What's up, everybody? This is Kombonation. This is Christian.
Strike Freedom.
X-Flow.
And man, we're basically just coming together to talk about all the different types of things that we love. So movies, video games,
Anime,
comic books, all those different types of things. So that's pretty much what y'all are going to be seeing from us. And with us starting off the new year, we're basically going to go down and talk about, in all of 2019, some of the best video games, movies, and anime that have influenced us. So this doesn't necessarily mean that this is something that came out or something that was really hot in 2019, but it's just all of our personal experiences in 2019 with these different forms of media and just how they kind of affected us going forward as we begin to kind of embark on new watches and new reads and all those different types of things. So my name is Christian again, and I have a film and video background as a screenwriter, so a lot of times you'll see that I may have a little more technical approach to maybe a story arc or just overall storytelling in general. When it comes to movies and TV shows, sometimes I might analyze more of the editing part of it, or how they cut together different scenes, or how actors perform in different ways like that. So that's pretty much what y'all expect from me.
For me, Strike Freedom, I have an art and graphic design background, so I will kind of be looking at a little about on the artwork, some of the animations, how things are put together when it comes to different scenes stacking up with each other, and the overall, like when it comes to action scenes and things like that, how well it flows. So I'll be kind of going over fluid things like that when it comes to the different shows, whether it be the anime or even some animated movies like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and things like that. So that's me, Strike Freedom.
X. Basically, my approach is going to be more on how I can relate to certain anime, video games, shows, whatever it may be. I've always had a keen interest whenever it comes into something that's impactful. So, yeah, a show might look visually stunning, but if it doesn't hit home with me in my heart, then it probably won't flow that well. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, cool. I guess we can go ahead and get started. I kind of had my first little list together starting with the anime. So if y'all want to kind of talk about, what y'all think as far as animes that y'all watched in 2019 or whatever, y'all can jump into it. I'm just now kind of getting into anime. I'll say that right off the bat. I've watched a couple of the main animes that pretty much everybody knows, but I'm just now kind of just diving into some of the other stuff as well. So I'm really leaning on these guys to kind of teach me a bunch of different things. So I guess we'll get started with them.
All right. So for 2019, a few of the animes that really like caught my attention and really like hit home throughout the year, even if it was something that didn't really start at the beginning of the year, but I thought about it throughout the rest of the year of 2019 and now going into 2020. The first one that comes to my mind is Demon Slayer, and just the way that show handled its story, handled the characters, the artwork, the music, everything. It really puts together a full package for a show of something that you can actually watch, experience, and be like, yo, that hit. I understand either it being the hype, or I understand like how other people kind of feel about it. It being, I think right now it's in the running, it was in the running for top anime of 2019. So that was like one of my top. What about you, X?
I also had Demon Slayer down, but to differentiate just a little bit, I have Vinland Saga down, which just ended, by the way. The season 2 just finished up. And Vinland Saga, it is a story about a young boy named Thorfinn, him growing up. The first 2 seasons are basically the prologue to the show. And it's about Vikings. There's a whole lot of war going on. There's a lot of historical background. And just the shift from Thorfinn being the main character in the first season, and then the second season you learn about all these other characters. That show did such a really good job. And it's not all about the action in the show. It's just the story and the world building that's just so fantastic. And it's by the same studio that did Attack on Titan, so you can see a lot of the visual similarities between the two shows. That was definitely one of my hot hits for this year. I was really looking forward to it because I had already looked into the manga a little bit whenever I heard about it, and it exceeded all my expectations, and I already had them very high. So that was a great watch. I highly recommend that one.
Man, those are two animes that you just brought up that are on the top of my list as far as like really diving into anime, because like Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer are the first animes that I feel like for me, like just now actually being exposed to anime a little bit more, that like kind of just took everybody by storm. Like, and then because you know how sometimes a good show will come out and everybody's talking about this show, like, hey, you gotta watch this, you gotta watch that. And so like normally I see anime as something like you got to kind of just find your own way and stumble across good stuff. But like with Attack on Titan and with Demon Slayer, these are the ones that like really kind of get pushed into your face. Like even if you're not an everyday, every week anime watcher,
True.
like those are ones that just like if you about to get into anime, you better be watching these two shows.
Yeah.
And so like you know those are definitely two really high on my list. You know right now I'm watching One Piece, but I want to talk about like an anime that I rewatched this year that I loved as a kid. Like I loved Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid. Like getting up like every morning and watching Yu-Gi-Oh. Sometimes they'll do those like back-to-back drops where it's 2 new episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh on that Saturday morning. You get that 10 o'clock episode and you get that 10:30 episode, and then and it was always so fun and cool, and I was always excited to see what was going on. But now I went back and I rewatched that show as an adult. That show sucks. like that show is really, really, really bad. I mean, the characters never learn from their mistakes, really. Like the stakes are sometimes we talk about stakes and like, are the stakes high enough? The stakes are just way too high on an every episode basis for the most simplest of stuff. It's like, man, I want to get this. Man, do you have a dollar? No, I don't have a dollar. Well, let's take this to the Shadow Realm. It's just like, I just feel like everything, the stakes are just way too high. And then we have this thing in screenwriting called on the nose dialogue. And that's when you use the characters to fully explain the story without letting it actually unfold on screen. And so it makes for like really boring storytelling mechanics. And so I understand that it's a show for kids, but at the same time, like kids are smart. So when I'm watching the episode and we're at the 8-minute mark, and for the 5th time I'm hearing, oh man, I can't believe Yugi just put down that trap card. Now, if Kaiba doesn't come out with an attack, he's gonna lose all his life points. Wow, I can't believe he was able to sacrifice 3 monsters to get that obelisk on the. It's like, if you watch it as an adult, you realize that they're repeating themselves over and over and over and over. Don't forget about that face down card. That could totally change the game. Like, and I kind of just grinded through it, and just the exciting moments because it had a good soundtrack, all that different stuff. The voice acting is really good. And so those things that kind of keep it going. But like now as an adult, like I'm looking back on this show that I loved. Like Yu-Gi-Oh was second to Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid. But now it's like, this sucks, and I don't like it anymore.
You know, it's funny that you bring up like a show like that you watched as a kid, you liked then, you watch it again now, and it's like you feel completely different on how the show actually like feels to you and the way you view it as an adult.
Yeah.
And that's very, very similar to how I feel about Fairy Tail as an anime, because the final season ended earlier this year, and Fairy Tail is a show that I started watching whenever I first started getting back into anime at the beginning, or close to the beginning of the decade, 2014. And it stuck with me because I like the characters. The music I really enjoyed. It has some great OSTs.
Yeah,
But as Fairy Tail kept going on, you started to noticing all the flaws that repeated themselves every single arc. People didn't die. You knew friendship was key and things like that. And not all of it's always bad, but whenever it's something you're seeing it every day and it doesn't look like the characters are really growing from it, that really does hinder the experience of watching that show, because now you're like, man, how did I like this show?
Especially with that show in general, just because there were multiple times where there was a big event that happened that almost shifted the show in a darker route, which would have made it
much
way better. And they never did.
Never did.
I don't know if it was the writer or the board or what was going on, but it seemed like there's a little bit of internal conflict at times where something would have this big build up all the way up to this climax, and then it just drop off and end in a totally different fashion.
Yep, that really is Fairy Tail because, and I know Hiro Mashima, the author and editor of Fairy Tail, he didn't want Fairy Tail to go that route in the beginning, but the fact that it did go that route and he continued to just let it go in a bad way instead of kind of like fixing it, correcting it a little bit, and kind of making the story shift into a better version of itself. With Fairy Tail, you could probably name on your hand the people that died, and death isn't a thing that need to be in every show. Yeah. But if it's something that pops up like it's a big thing and then no one dies or somebody is dead and then they come back, that can be a problem because it's like, yo, where, just like how you were saying with Yu-Gi-Oh, there's a lot of stakes. With Fairy Tail, they built up a lot of stakes, but then at the end of it, like, where did those stakes go?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay.
Dealing with an antagonist such as Acnologia, Zeref, there should have been some people
lot of people that
and
died.
So, like, I'll offer a solution to like what I really feel like the biggest issue with Yu-Gi-Oh was, and I'm going to use Dragon Ball as an example because I don't think I'm going to be talking about Dragon Ball too much, so I can talk about a little bit of it here. You see the progression of Goku, like even from a child, and you see him learn different things. So when he utilizes those skills, when conflict actually comes, it makes more sense and it's more rewarding and more fulfilling. Goku learns the Kamehameha. He uses the Kamehameha for all of Dragon Ball. Goku learns the Kaioken. He uses the Kaioken all the way up until he learns Super Saiyan. He uses Super Saiyan all the way up until, like, you see the progression of that. With Yugi, you never see the acquisition of new cards and new utilities for his deck. And so when you don't see that, he can literally pull any card out of his ass, and you can't question where he got that card from. And so they can create the most obscure situation with the opponent, and then all of a sudden create the perfect response to that in the form of a card. But if I didn't see you get that card 6 episodes ago or 7 episodes ago or last season and wonder how the fuck is he going to use this, then all of a sudden it's just one of those things where it's like, you made that card up when you were writing this episode.
That's the definition.
Literally.
That's the definition of
literally. So, yeah, with that being said, what have we've all talked about one anime?
So one anime, one other big topic that we would like to talk about, and y'all can throw it in the comments as well, is who was your most influential fictional character of the decade?
Going to that. We're going to that already.
Yep, we're going to go and jump to that because it kind of seemed like it was...
That's a good segue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gravitating towards it. So I'm going to go first since I brought it up. My favorite show of all time is Code Geass. Well, my favorite anime of all time is Code Geass.
What?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought your favorite anime of all time was...
Gundam would be it. Yes, my name is the Strike Freedom. I am the Strike Freedom Gundam. But Code Geass is my favorite. He's the
Strike Freedom he's Lelouch in
the pilot seat. Yes, I am Lelouch piloting the Strike Freedom.
Okay.
Lelouch V. Britannia, Lelouch Lamperouge is my fictional character of the decade. I know Code Geass did not come out in this decade, but it's when I rewatched it as an adult and actually got to experience Lelouch and everything he went through, from just growing up as an exiled prince, trying to help his sister, trying to find out this conspiracy and doing everything for his sister, but it turning into something completely different. And him continuing to hold himself and still build people around him. And at the end, for everybody who's watched Code Geass or seen the movie, then you know what he had to do. And to actually have that, I don't want to say passion, but to have that goal, and to, even if things get in your way, to not let it completely stop you. And even if the world had to hate you, if you still wanted to get that goal done, he did it. That is something I will forever respect. And he was the one anime character. There was a few others, but he was the main anime character that I was seeing in this decade that I was like, yo, I can relate to that 100%.
I'll say you, bro. I gotta figure out who that
he
is.
He is a great character. Lelouch is a very, very
Go in the room, you see that giant poster, Lelouch v. Britannia, Code Geass.
X, we're going to you, brother.
All right, I'll go next. So, mine was almost a toss-up. there's two characters in mind, and even a third one ended up popping up.
Okay.
I'll start with the third one. It was Vegeta, Luffy, or Kakashi. Vegeta I've been seeing ever since I was probably like 8, 9 years old whenever I started watching Dragon Ball. But both Naruto and One Piece I watched in this decade. All of them. All the episodes.
Damn.
So it came down to me choosing Kakashi just because I really like that character. And not just from a perspective as like the role of a mentor that he plays in Naruto, but just as an anime character in general. I really like how Kakashi's a great teacher, but he's a great teacher because he had great teachers. So he was really good, really keen on learning a whole lot. His childhood was very, very tough. He lost 2 of his best friends, one a possible love interest, and just seeing Kakashi become such a great sensei and spawning 3 of the best shinobi to come out of the Hidden Leaf Village was just phenomenal. I really like that character a whole lot. He has a whole lot of skills, a whole lot of tool sets. He's always there in the clutch. He's always holding it down. He became Hokage, which was amazing. And in the final war, probably had one of the best moments ever. And yeah, man, I really like Kakashi. Kakashi's the one for me for this decade, for sure.
I'm gonna say mine, but just to kind of segue off of like just a couple of things that y'all talked about. I'm actually gonna talk about One Piece real quick for a second because like I've said, I haven't watched a whole lot of animes, and so for me, animes have always been about cool action, like really strong characters, really cool fights, and so starting off and watching One Piece for the first time, like I know y'all were telling me that like it's more about story arcs, more about character development, and so in these first like 85 episodes that I've watched, like I'm really seeing that like that there's a whole lot more to anime than just these really great like fight scenes and these really cool drawn characters. And so like with One Piece, it's finally getting me to the point where I'm like starting to understand, okay, like these anime characters and these anime stories and these worlds like are a lot deeper, and there are a lot of more opportunities to connect with new and different types of characters. So like that's just something that really excites me. Like it sucks that like now I'm a fucking adult, bro. And so like I don't have every day after school, to just watch shit and just to like be entertained by shit and read shit. And that just sucks. But at the same time, like I'm gonna be constantly just chipping away at these different anime characters. But to go ahead and dive completely away from anime, my character of the decade is Eobor fucking Thawne. This dude is like, he is a totally different type of character that I've never really seen before. You typically get 2 type of villains. The evil villain that's just evil, and he just fucks shit up. And then you get the misunderstood villain, right? Who's not a real villain. He's just somebody who had just a terrible life, and they want you to feel sorry for him towards the end. And honestly, those type of villains have kind of gotten played out. Like I'm at the point where I'm like, give me a guy that's just evil as fuck just because. Like, I don't want to know what happened to his family. I don't want to know what happened to his friends. Like, give me somebody that's just in the same way that you give somebody pure goodness for the sake of being good. Give me somebody that's a villain for the sake of being a villain. And what I love about Eobor is he doesn't have all these different varying crazy motives, right? Like, he exists solely as opposition and hatred for one character, and that's Barry Allen. So he doesn't want to take over the world. He doesn't want $1 billion. He doesn't want he doesn't care about what happens to anyone else. Like even if other villains are like collaborating together to do some bullshit, it's like he doesn't even want to get involved unless in some form or fashion it fucks over Barry Allen in some way. And so, and another thing that I love about him is it's very clear from the beginning of the show to all the way up until now, he's a villain. You know, he's not a foil character. He's not like a character that is sometimes on the good side, sometimes on the. He's just a villain, but you love him. You love how consistent he is as a character. He's consistent with his decisions. He's consistent with the relationships that he builds. And it's like the moment that you start to think, damn, this dude's about to do some shit that Eobard's not supposed to do. Like, he tricks your ass and he does some evil ass shit. And like, he's always so far ahead. Like, you've never seen a villain that is just so far ahead of the good guys at any given moment. Like, he always gets what the fuck he wants, always, all the time. And you get this admiration for the fact that he is so dedicated, so meticulous, and so intelligent about every single thing that he does. And so for that reason, Eobard is definitely like Xehanort from Kingdom Hearts, very close. But it's definitely got to be Eobard for me.
On that note, yo, whenever you get around, you gotta watch Bleach because you will love Aizen.
Aizen.
You will love
Love
Aizen.
Aizen.
You will love Aizen. Yo.
Aizen.
I want to say that
my.
now, just from everything you said, you will love Aizen.
To continue on that, what season was that where there's two Eobars? You know what I'm talking about. There's like one from the future, or a different timeline, or something like that. And then there was the one that was presently, and like the one that was present really seemed like the evil one, and then the other one was the good one, and he was kind of helping Barry out the whole time in the lab and stuff like that. Was that
okay,
3 or 4?
So that's season 1.
Okay, season 1.
But
it continues on though, right?
Yeah, that's what's so crazy about Eobard is because he is so good at what he. There was a point in season 1 where I was like, this dude is good. He has to be good. Like, he tricked me that bad.
Yeah,
and then brought it all. Man, season 1 Eobard is fantastic. Season 2 Eobard is good. Season 3 Eobard, but he always has like a backup. He's really like the villain's Batman. Like, he has contingencies upon contingencies for everything. So I definitely, like, I wish that I could, you hear this all the time, but season 1 of The Flash is what I wish I could erase it from my memory and we rewatch it just because of Eobard. So, what do we jump into?
Okay. So I guess since we did a little bit of anime, we should hop on to the movie films.
Okay.
I would say at first we were going to do top 3 movies of the decade, but let's just make it easy and kind of just 3 movies that we liked from the decade that really stuck with us throughout all of that whole 2010 to the end of 2019.
So we're not going to do the yearly or the 19s?
Yeah, we can do the 19s.
Yeah, let's do the 19s first, and then let's go ahead and do our let's spend some time on each of the 2 or 3 different movies from 2019, and then we'll do the last one for the decade. We'll just do all those right through. I'll go ahead and start. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about first was 2 of the biggest films I think of the decade, which is Infinity War and Endgame. And I wanted to talk about them in comparison to one another because I really, really, really liked Infinity War, but I really didn't so much care for Endgame. And when we talk about like just an overall film from start to finish, like, to me, there's no question that Infinity War is a better film than Endgame is. And I think just from top to bottom, like the first arc, the second arc, the third arc, all of them flow together much more concisely. They're far more entertaining. And I feel rewarded in each arc from watching in a way that I don't necessarily feel for with Endgame. And I don't think that Endgame was like, as much as I feel like I'm not against longer movies, but I also, in this instance, don't feel like the time was very well utilized.
I would say, so for Endgame, do you feel like most of the movie, I would say like the first 2 hours, since it was mostly exposition, it was a little bit of action, but mostly exposition. It was kind of more on a calmer tone compared to Infinity War. Was the end of the movie, that big battle, pretty much what you would say people were going to watch?
Yeah, see, yeah, but I'm not one of those people that say you got to have action from gun to tape. I'm not one of those people, but I feel like the different things that we were focused on in those first 2 hours just didn't really grab me, and I felt like they focused more so on we have to wrap everything up that we've done over the past several years building this universe, and we have to do some sort of response or some sort of callback to all these different things that took place. And I didn't necessarily think that that was necessary. And so, like with them going back in time and revisiting, different aspects to find the Infinity Stones, I thought that that was cool. But after watching it for about 15 minutes, like I'm just like, okay, well, I kind of want to speed through this so we can get to something that I feel like is actually going to be a solution.
Yeah.
And then that first 45 minutes where it's just everyone who is just upset and depressed over what happened in the previous movie. Um, I couldn't get into it, and so those first two arcs, I think really made the overall film suffer. Whereas with Infinity War, I mean, yeah, Infinity War, I liked everything about it, and so I just wanted to have a little comparison of those because it's really the culmination of kind of the decade, but also at the same time like just those two movies.
Yeah.
So I had a question about that. Both of these movies, there's this like rumor going around how it was supposed to all be one, or maybe people thought it would be better if it were one. Do you feel the same way? Like if they cut out some of the unnecessary shit from Endgame and put them both together to make a film that's not too long, do you think it would have worked better if they did it that way?
Yeah, I think it probably would have. I think it probably would have worked better if it was a little bit heavier on the Infinity War end, and then just cut out about half of that first arc,
Mm-hmm.
and then just go straight into the back half of the first arc, and then continue on to the second and the third arc. I feel like it would have worked much better that way. But at the end of the day, I think it's probably a little bit of the editing as well.
I would say you don't think it would have felt too rushed, kind of close to the end, because it'll go from the snap, you see everybody disappearing, to jumping to we found Tony. Boom, let's go back in time. Boom, got the stones. Boom, we at the end of the movie with the big battle in the war. You don't think that would have been like a little bit too quick if it was like one big movie?
Well, it depends because I don't know what they shot that's not included.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say, and I don't want to just back out of that question, but it's hard to say because when you shoot a film, like you shoot a film and you use like 20%, or less of what you shot to make the movie.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about two different films that they shot back to back. Like there's a lot of stuff that we haven't seen. And so you start to understand like when you edit the film, you really make the film.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's a great to kind of answer your question as best I can. There's a great possibility that it would have seemed rushed. But it's the job of the editors and the production team just to make sure that it doesn't feel that way.
Now I can actually agree with you on that because Infinity War was a long movie, but it wasn't as long as Endgame. But if Infinity War was the same length as Endgame and it had all of that stuff that Endgame worked, I think it would have worked out a little bit better. Because Infinity War, I think it was like 2 hours and 30 minutes, where Endgame was 3 hours and 10 minutes?
I never felt when watching Infinity War, I never felt this feeling of all right, I'm ready to move on. And I think that is the best thing that you can have in your movie, to where your viewer never feels like, okay, I'm ready to move on. And I felt like that 2 or 3 different times in Endgame. And so for me, that's just why it's just, I'm not saying Endgame is a bad movie, because it's definitely not. And it's certainly fulfilling in terms of, just being a great film. And I do think that it does a good job of capping
You
off.
just rate Infinity War above you, like you put in. Because I remember whenever the movie came out, when we would go watch it and we had the conversation, you still put Infinity War above it, even freshly getting out of Endgame. You was like, nah, I still put Infinity War, and now I can kind of see.
And I feel like that feeling that I got when I left the theater in Infinity War is the feeling I wanted to have when I finished watching Endgame. And so I was a little just, it felt like I was lost a bit for that reason. But yeah, what do you guys got?
All right, X, you go next.
All right, for 2019, I say my movie was Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Okay.
Just because out of all the Spider-Man movies, that's the one I enjoyed the absolute most, and it wasn't just because it was animated. I really like the story. I like Miles Morales. I like his whole relationship with his family, his friends, growing up, going to school and stuff like that. And then just the whole dynamic between him and one of his villains being his uncle. I didn't even really see that coming.
Yeah.
And it was just a really, really fun film, man. I really enjoyed that. And then after watching it a second time, I can say I enjoyed it easily just as much.
I actually want to cut in on that because Into the Spider-Verse was actually on my... No, you said Far From Home.
My bad. Into the Spider-Verse, that's what I meant.
That's what you meant?
Yeah, that is what I meant.
Oh, okay.
I did have Far From Home down too, though.
Yeah, but I wanted to kind of jump into that because that's on my list. Man, I think for the first time, like I went into the Spider-Verse almost like a grumpy grouch because so many people were hyping it up, right? And I was like, there's no way that this movie is this good. You know what I mean? Like, there's just no way that this movie is this good. And I watched it, and I love that movie.
Yeah,
I love that movie. I feel like they did everything well. Like everything that movie gets praised for, it is accurately praised for. The animation is great. The acting is really, really, really good. You see the individual characters, and you just start to understand like how much they care about each other, and that relationship between Peter and Morales. Like when Peter is trying to teach him how to like use his power more instinctively, and he kicks him and he webs him up, and he's like, man, I'll let you go if you can use your power on command to get past me. And Miles couldn't do it, but you could tell, and this is what I love about animated films. When you can use these animated characters and then as an actor just use your voice to really command that feeling and that emotion. Yes. You feel that moment so heavily by the way the tone of those two characters and the way they talk and the way that they, like, the breaths that they take, all those different things that you think don't mean shit. You're like, oh man, he just goes into a booth and he just talks into the microphone. And this isn't, like, to say that is in any way different from someone actually acting on screen, like, or it's definitely different, but it's, you can't say the one's better than the other.
It's just
superior
like,
to the other.
Yeah, it's just different. Like texting versus calling. You can text somebody a whole sentence, but they don't know how you're actually expressing it. You call somebody and say that same experience. They know how you feel from the way that you're saying it.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing when it comes to a lot of the characters, whenever the voice actors, whenever they get in the booth and they have to pretty much become this character, they're literally becoming this character. It's not just them saying things that are written there.
And that's what I really enjoyed about that movie, man. It almost seemed as if they filmed it in real life and then just animated all of that. Like every time a character was talking, it really felt like it was an actual person, like that person was personified.
Yeah.
And you just don't get that a whole lot whenever it comes to animated films or just anything animated in general, you know?
My favorite thing about that movie, what I got mostly from that movie was the Peter Parker, is the pride, I mean not pride, but how proud he felt for Miles whenever he achieved a milestone.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he first started using his power on command towards the end, like they're in the midst of sheer danger, and Peter is just so happy and excited that that Miles is doing what he's been trying to teach him to do for the past hour.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I'm glad you brought that movie up because it's something that I want to talk about as well. But since we've talked our fucking ass off, let's give Mitchell a chance
All
to
right.
talk about.
So I haven't watched that many movies in 2019, but the movie I can say that stuck with me, and I actually had to download immediately whenever I saw it pop up on the PlayStation Store, is John Wick 3. John Wick 3 is my movie.
I haven't watched any of the Johns.
Oh man,
I am
need to
a
watch it,
big
John.
person when it comes to straight action movies, and when I mean straight action movies, the Avengers and like Spider-Man, they're action. They have action in them, but John Wick was a straight action movie. If you've ever seen The Raid, then you know what I mean by straight action movie. I like the world building that it did when it came to like the little underworld of the assassins, the figureheads behind the assassin order, the higher ups, the people that were behind the scenes. I like that they dived into it. I like that with John Wick 1, you learned that John was an assassin that pretty much was trying to get away. He wanted to live a normal life. His wife died. They killed his dog. He was back.
very simple and direct, but very
But that is perfect. John Wick 2, okay, y'all still killed my dog. I'm still pissed off. Now I'm going to finish what I started in the first movie. John Wick 3, okay, you remember all that stuff I did in the first two movies? Yeah, now everybody's out to kill me, and I have, what was it, a $50 million bounty on my head, and it kept going up. Like that whole premise of the story was so simple, but the way they handled it and with all the action scenes, Keanu Reeves, I can see why the hype of Keanu Reeves has been up in the past couple of years. It's because whenever he does play a character that he wants to play, he's like Will Smith. He's not that character anymore. He's Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
That's it. And he played John Wick as if he was John Wick.
Yeah.
And that was perfect. All of the action scenes, like that movie, watching that movie, I was just sitting there every time it was an action scene because I was like, it was dope. The first scene, the first 20 minutes of the movie is a big action scene within like an old gun museum, and everything that happens is just off the wall. And that movie right there, John Wick 3, I can tell that there's going to be another John Wick, because if they don't make another movie, Keanu Reeves better sign up for a TV show, because I would watch John Wick TV show.
John Wick TV show would be amazing. That
would be good. And John Wick 3, that was my movie of 2019 right there.
I want to talk about Joker. Have y'all seen Joker?
I have not seen Joker.
I told you to watch Joker months ago.
Yes, you have.
Why haven't you watched it?
Because I don't watch movies often.
I told you to watch it months ago. Now I cannot talk about this film.
Dude, how long did we tell you to watch One Piece? Before
I'm in the process of
But how
watching
long? How long though?
Maybe a month.
All right, y'all heard that. Maybe a month.
It's been 3 months. Well,
but
move on to something else.
No, go, because I do want to hear you talk about Joker, because it will make me want to watch it sooner now.
So here's my thing about Joker, and I feel like, and one of the reasons why I wanted you to watch it is because I feel like you have a better opportunity to enjoy it. Because for me, I'm a really big Joker. So he's one of my top 3 fictional villains ever. And so for me, there's more elements to the Joker than his insanity. And I feel like the Joker as a film really focused so much on that aspect of him as an insane person that you don't get to see these other elements of the Joker. And somebody countered, when I was having a discussion about this, and they said, well, this is just a origin story, But the thing about an origin story is I should still see elements of this character regardless of, it just being something that is in the early stages of his life. And so, like, the insanity thing is great to have, but all the other elements of that character are missing. You know, and so that was one of the things that kind of bothered me because I felt like they spent so much time on just this one aspect of this character, and I feel like they could have done more. And so I honestly feel like it's one of those things where I would have liked the movie much better if it was just called Arthur Curry. It didn't have the DC logo on it or any of that stuff, and it was just a movie about a guy. You know, I feel like it would have worked much better that way. But when you title it Joker and you assign that DC label to it, and now I'm thinking about what this character should eventually become, because a lot of the aspects of this character, as far as his intellect, is not so much present. His ability to set up and control an environment, to control a situation, is not so much present. And so those are things that just kind of bothered me as a viewer, because I feel like they kind of took this great, complex, and versatile character, and they kind of dialed him down to just one piece, you know, and focused on that one piece. And I think that that's okay, you know, for just an overall film, but I think it does a disservice to the characters.
The way you said that, if the movie was called Arthur Curry instead of being called Joker, is probably the best way to explain that, because it is, whenever you hear the name Joker, you see Joker pop up in your head. And if you've ever seen anything DC with Joker in it, you're thinking things that you would normally see Joker do. And the fact that you said it is like the fact that he doesn't control the environment as much. You don't see the intellect and everything. There's a lot of stuff, like the Joker is very acrobatic and things like that.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of psychological stuff in that movie.
Yeah.
That's what I took away from it. It was more like that movie was a representation of a lot of stuff that's going on in the real world.
Right? Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
And so and a lot of people feel like that if you didn't like that movie, that you're just a Heath Ledger fanboy. And as much as I fucking love Heath Ledger, I've seen several different iterations of the Joker since then that I love. Like on Gotham, there's a character named Jeremiah Valeska and Jerome Valeska that are essentially the Joker characters. Those are two of the best Joker performances that I've ever seen. Like, those rival, you know, Heath Ledger, in my opinion. And so I'm not just a Heath Ledger fanboy. I do think that Heath Ledger is one of the best portrayals of that character. But for me, I can't think of the actor's name all of a sudden. And I think he did a great job. But for me, like I said, I feel like it would have done better if it was just a movie called Arthur Curry about a crazy guy than it is about the Joker. And unfortunately, if it was a movie called Arthur Curry, it probably wouldn't have done as well. You know, because attaching a name like that to a movie does put people in the seats.
Yep.
But for me, I feel like there could have been more of that character shown in the early stage of his life.
All right, so one thing.
Phoenix.
Yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix, yes.
So one thing.
I'm glad you did that, because I feel like his name needs to be said.
I'll add on to the end of this, and then we can probably move on to the next topic. Is that, going off of, since y'all both seen Joker, do y'all think if they decided to stay in that world, could they pull someone else from the DC universe that's in the Batman universe, and do the same thing with another character? Or would it not work at all because of now we've seen the Joker?
It would depend on the approach that they take.
Yeah.
It could possibly work out. If they were to do like an origin story like they did Joker, it would have to make sense. And if there's already an origin story for that character, they need to capitalize by making it similar.
The only reason I brought it up is because I did see somebody, because I was going through comments and stuff about the Joker, and I saw somebody randomly say, and they were probably joking, but I kind of sat back and I thought about it for a second. I was like, you know what? I feel like if they did do it in a different twist, it could work.
That's right.
Nah. Selena Kyle.
Oh.
Catwoman. So we've all seen the Halle Berry Catwoman movie. You can probably wash it out your brain now that I just brought it back up. But I feel like if they're doing a villain or kind of an anti-hero type of character, because honestly, if they did a hero, I don't think it would work. But if they did it either an anti-hero or a villain, it works better, because that's kind of like how you say with having a character that's more relatable that ends up becoming a villain. If you think about it in Selena Kyle's way, going off from her origin, if they kind of took it in that route, how she became Catwoman or the Cat Burglar before she became Catwoman.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I think she would probably be the only other character from the immediate that if you saw the trailer, like, oh, Catwoman, kind of like with Joker. Because if you think about Deathstroke, you're like, oh, it's gonna be a few people in the movie theater when they see the trailer, like, oh man, that's gonna be a Deathstroke movie, and then you're gonna see other people, who Deathstroke? But with Catwoman, you're like, oh, it's Catwoman. They're like, oh, Catwoman, yeah, Catwoman. Like, it's easier to see Catwoman's name just like it's easier to see Joker's name. Do you think that would work?
But man, it's funny you say that because here's a character that's actually a really strong character, but just you don't know a lot about his past, but he's and I think what makes something like this work is if you use a character that people don't know much about prior to their prime, and then use that narrative and use that film to then enforce what they become in their prime. Nobody really knows much about Ra's al Ghul before he became Ra's al Ghul.
That's actually good.
I feel like a Ra's al Ghul film done in the form that the Joker film was done at would be absolutely phenomenal, because you would get to see like just his early stages as a man, right? And how that ultimately kind of turned him into a dude that starts to seek all these different supernatural and phenomenal powers of the universe, and all of a sudden now he's this dude that has lived, hundreds of years longer than he should have.
Do you think that would
be?
Yeah. Do you think that would be better as a big budget film or a Netflix film or a Netflix show? If they really wanted to dive into, do you think it would be better as a show, as a movie, a 2 hour, maybe hour and a half, 2 hour movie, or a 8 like Witcher style 8 episode Netflix series?
I think it'll do better as a movie, because I would like to see that point where you as the viewer get to connect the dots yourself and then bring that character into its current form.
Okay.
And so if you set this film up with Ra's al Ghul doing this, doing that, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, he walks by and he looks down and there's a black cloak on the ground. And he picks up the black cloak, and now it's like, okay, he's about to go start a league of killers. And so I think it'll work that way better, because I do feel like something like that has to have an end.
Yeah.
And with shows, they almost never really have an end.
Because shows usually, especially if it's a show that a lot of people go really get invested into, it's a bait in a way. Like, you get to the end of the season, it could be the best way to end the season, but then people are like, yo, I want a second season.
Yeah.
Now we got to figure out. Now the writers are like, man, we ended that pretty good, yo. They want a second season though.
Yeah.
Now we got to figure out a way to kind of like, hey, it ended, but he back. Because that's kind of how they got to do it. So I get you on that. All right. What y'all want to hop to next?
We haven't done our movie of the decade.
Haven't done that. We haven't done video games.
We haven't done anything on video games.
We haven't done anything.
I wasn't sure if this was its own segment or what, or the TV shows.
Okay, yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and knock out our movie of the decade first. I'll start off. My movie of the decade is probably going to be surprising. Some of y'all probably didn't remember this movie if you're watching. But it's Chronicle. Chronicle, here's the thing. I feel like Chronicle came out during a time where we had just turned the corner of everything is now going to be a remake or an adaptation of another form of medium. Because pretty much everything nowadays almost is an adaptation of a novel, an adaptation of a comic book, or an adaptation of a movie that we've already seen. And so I feel like Chronicle was so refreshing because it was none of that. And even though it is a typical, for the most part, storyline is, what would happen if these 3 kids got powers? But I felt like it felt so good to watch these kids, utilize their power, learn how to control it, realize the different strengths and weaknesses and the pros and cons and all those different things of that, and then just become better and stronger at being those characters and using those powers. And then ultimately you see like so just the effects of, wow, if you give a good person these abilities, what happens if you give a bad person who has had a shitty life,
I would say
these
trouble.
abilities? You know,
Trouble,
yeah.
yeah.
And so to me, that was so interesting. I was so disappointed that we never really got to see a sequel. But like for me, that was a movie that really impacted me, just kind of as a writer, just as a storyteller in general, like as a filmmaker, like all these different things. Like I want studios to start taking chances again on stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, don't get me wrong. I want you to continue making these movies about these characters that I love and putting them on screen and things like that. But like creating something original like that, even if it's something that's not going to make you, you know, $500 million, you know, just something for entertainment's sake, because I feel like that was really an entertaining film.
So mine is, it was a little hard to really think of it, but I had to kind of go back into all the movies. And the way I kind of gave my movie of the decade was, what movie did I go watch that I felt was the most fun? Because usually, yeah, people go to the movies for different reasons, but sometimes, because whenever I went to go watch this movie, I was actually in a very bad mood. I was gonna go with some people, a bunch of stuff happened, and I ended up going by myself. I had to sit in the very front row because it was packed, and I left that movie theater with a smile on my face. And my movie of the decade is Pacific Rim.
I was about to say, are you gonna say a fucking movie?
Shut up, man. I wanted to get that little part out the way, but Pacific Rim was my movie of the decade. As y'all know, I am the Strike Freedom, so I love mechs. And as someone...
Is Rihanna in that?
No.
What is she in?
She's in Battleship.
Oh, okay. That's not the same.
Pacific Rim was a movie. This is coming off of the previous three Transformer movies. And if you've seen the Transformer movies, they're Some of them are just terrible, but they're Pacific Rim, it wasn't the greatest movie of all time, but it was fun. It was a mech movie that knew it was a mech movie, and it did mech so much better than Transformers.
Oh, wow.
And that movie just had me so intrigued the whole time because I felt like a little kid. I went from being angry and pissed off at the beginning of that movie to I was with everybody else in the movie, hyped whenever it finally got to the final battle in the city. And knowing that Legendary and Lionsgate Studios is making the Gundam movie is the greatest thing I could have ever heard in my life, because I know that this Gundam movie is just going to be that fun. It's going to be fun. And that's why Pacific Rim gets my movie of the decade.
Very nice. Yeah, I know you're excited about that. I'm excited about the Gundam movie too.
I don't know shit about Gundam.
For my decade, my movie of the decade, it was kind of tough for me. I was sitting there thinking, man, I haven't watched a whole lot of movies this decade, but then come to think of it, yeah, I actually did watch a good amount. So I ended up choosing Interstellar.
Shut up. Shut up. He's laughing because you said good amount.
I know, I did that on purpose too.
Interstellar.
Yeah,
yes.
Interstellar is my movie of the decade. I've watched that movie like 4 times. I remember the first time I watched it, I actually gotten off work at, I think it was pretty early. It was around like 3 or 4 or something like that. And I didn't have anything else to do for the rest of the day. Didn't really have anybody that was available to go watch the movie with me. So I went and watched the movie by myself. And I sat in that theater and I was just blown away by everything that I was seeing, you know, just them traveling through space, trying to build a space station and just everything, the time loops. It was just a really, really fun ride. And then there were states. I really liked that movie.
Man, Interstellar, I can't believe I forgot about that movie. Yes.
Yeah, bro.
That is definitely in my top 5 movies of the decade.
You didn't?
Man,
oh, man, it's so good.
Interstellar
bro.
is good.
I never watched that.
If this movie,
2014.
Okay. I'm not going to pull out my phone, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments because I'm pretty sure I'm going to do it anyway. But if this movie did come out this decade, Inception would have been my movie of the decade. If it did come out this decade, I'm not too sure. But 2010.
Barely made the cut.
Oh, barely made the cut. So if
made the cut.
Then I'll go and say this. If Pacific Rim did not come out, Inception was my movie of the decade. Like, that movie, I'm not even getting into it since I already said, but yeah, Inception. So what we got next? We got TV shows.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So I haven't really watched too many TV shows other than
I can
South
start
anime.
off.
So yeah, go ahead and start off.
I'll kind of just like condense this down a little bit. I chose 3 shows, and mine were The Mandalorian, The Witcher, and Titans. Season 1 of Titans, because I haven't watched season 2 yet. I'm gonna be starting that pretty soon. I loved all 3 of these shows.
Man, these are your shows for the year?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Especially The Witcher. I finished The Witcher earlier, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched the last episode, finished it. Absolutely loved The Witcher. Henry Cavill did an amazing job as Geralt. Like, so good. He captured Geralt down to the T. All the hype about this show, lived up to it, exceeded it. Excellent show. Mandalorian caught me by surprise. I thought The Mandalorian was going to be a movie whenever I had first heard about it. I got Disney Plus, saw it's a TV show. It's going to be airing every Friday. Watched it every Friday. Loved every episode. Great show. I'm not going to get too much into like spoiler territory and everything, but
yeah, because I ain't watched that whole.
A lot of stuff gets answered, but then there's a lot of stuff that gets left open for season 2, which did get confirmed. So,
okay.
Yeah, man. Those 2 great shows. Titans, I absolutely loved. Christian here told me to get on that whenever the first season started airing. Absolutely loved it. They captured the Titans very well.
Yeah.
Extremely well.
I'm going to talk about 3. Try to be kind of quick with these. So, Criminal Minds. I just want to talk about Criminal Minds for a second because Criminal Minds got me back into watching TV. So when Dragon Ball Z stopped coming on every day and Disney Channel started just sucking, I literally
It's funny how those 2 both happened around the same time.
I literally stopped watching TV for about almost 10 years. Like a lot of me being like as a young kid, I just wasn't watching TV as much anymore. I really started getting into gaming, and so I was gaming, whenever I was not at school or whatever the hell I was supposed to be doing. And so it was actually the year that I graduated high school. I had to. Me and my mom went and we were staying with somebody, so I didn't have anything to do. I didn't have my game. I didn't have nothing set up, and so I just stumbled across Criminal Minds, and so I started watching it, and I was like, man, this show is good. Let me figure out when this show comes on. Let me start recording it. So like when it pops up, I can watch it. And so like it was really that first step that kind of got me into like all these different, basically just the whole idea of I'm going to be ready to watch this show at least once or twice a week.
Yeah.
And so all these different characters like Spencer Reed and Aaron Hodgner, like I started to fall in love with these characters and know what to expect from them on an episode by episode basis, and it just really makes me sad that like this show is finally about to end. There were so many moments when different characters would leave that I thought, man, this show is probably done, and now I feel like it's actually ending on their own terms.
Yeah.
And so I'm really happy about that, but I'll never really forget what that show did for me as just a viewer, but also just as a content creator, because I don't think I would have been able to get to the point where I am, like as far as finishing school and getting my film degree, if I didn't start watching Criminal Minds. Because for the first time when I was watching Criminal Minds, like I'm watching it and I'm like, man, I'm starting to think like somebody's making this stuff, and these guys are pretty cool.
So real quick, what is Criminal Minds about?
Criminal Minds is a team of FBI agents called the Behavioral Analysis Unit, and basically what they do is they approach different crimes by like using the behavior of the criminal to try to determine why they're doing what they're doing and what they expect to do next. And
That's
so cool. It's you would really like it.
Criminal Minds was one of the shows, like whenever I was staying with my parents, like my mom and my sister, they would always have it on. So it would always be a show that I would just watch and I enjoy because my mom used to love Law and Order. And it got to the point where SVU, I got tired of hearing that theme song. And I would turn the channel. One day I turned and Criminal Minds was on. And I was like, you know what? Nothing else is on. I'm going to see if there's another show that's better than Law and Order. And fight me. Criminal Minds is better than Law and Order SVU. Fight me. So Criminal Minds, I can understand why you put that on there.
Yeah. My next show is The Magicians. If you guys haven't watched The Magicians, man, that is a good, weird, different show. It's basically about like a world where magic exists, but and people know it exists, but it's mainly like a select few, and there's all these different tiers of what type of magician that you really are, and how magic exists, and how it kind of balances out the universe. And so I just really like that show. It's funny that I'm bringing it up now because this season wasn't really that great of a season. But one of the main characters kind of passes away in the season, and so I'm sitting here thinking, man, how is this show going to change? Where are they going with next? Because I always still kind of felt like we were following that character. His name is Quentin, and he always felt like he was never a part of anything, and so finally he feels like he's a part of something, and well, I guess I shouldn't be just telling everything. Man, I kind of fucked up, didn't I?
I mean,
but honestly, still watch it because I think it's about the journey of that character, and I don't know what they're gonna do with him next season. So
okay.
How many seasons are out so far?
I think we're about to go into season 5.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
I really thought it was like on 3 or 4. I never got that.
No, yeah, I think we're about to go into season 5. And then the last show that I want to talk about, this is my show of the year for me, is Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol caught me so amazingly off guard when I am a continuity watcher. So if I know that 2 shows exist in the same universe, I will watch that other show just for the sake of always being informed. And so that's what I was doing with Doom Patrol. They're using all these different characters that I don't give a damn about. The storylines I thought I didn't give a damn about. And I love that show. To me, that show is, as much as I love Titans, that X was talking about, Doom Patrol for me just blows Titans out of the water. And it's just so refreshing that they're dealing with these characters that nobody really knows or cares about. But you feel for each one of those individual characters, and the villains are just these weird, new, and different type of villains. And so every single episode, I'm watching the next episode preview, and I'm like, there's no way that I'm gonna like this episode. It's gonna be stupid. And I watch it, and I was like, I'm so glad I watched this episode. This episode is so fucking good. It's just, to me, it's like they're just dealing with so many different types of connections and emotions and characters for that story, and it's just, and I really recommend knocking out that first season. I think it's 13 episodes or something like that. So that.